Hey everyone, you're watching the channel EduCat for Neet. In today's video, we will make a mind map of Chapter 1 Living World, which is the first chapter of Class 11th NCERT Biology textbook. So let's begin. First, we will write all the features which differentiate between living and non-living and whether these features they are defining or not. So the features are: first one is growth, second one is development, third one is responsiveness, fourth one is adaptation, next one is reproduction, next we have cellular structure, next is metabolism, and the last one is consciousness. So these are the features. Now we will discuss whether they are defining features or not. Defining features in the sense that they are restricted to the living organisms or whether they are common in both living organisms and non-living organisms. In case of non-living, growth is just accumulation of matter. For example, mountains grow when dust particles and the sand on it grows or whether it accumulates. In case of living beings, it is increase in cells. Increase in the number of cell means there is growth happening in case of living organisms. There is also a difference in the growth pattern of plants and animals. The growth is definite in case of animals, while in case of plants it is indefinite. Because plants grow all through their lifetime. And this is the help of apical meristem, while animals stop at certain age. So we have seen that growth takes place in both living organisms and non-living organisms. So it is said that it is not a defining feature. Talking about development, this happens only in living organisms. So development can be said as a defining feature of living organisms. Next feature is responsiveness. This is also seen only in living beings. Like for example, plants and animals respond to the changes in the environment. Plant bend towards the light. This is also a response to the environment. They move away from the shade, which are sun loving plants. While some animals also go in hibernation when the winter arises. So we can say that responsiveness is also a defining feature of living beings. Let's look at the next one, which is adaptation. This is also seen only in living beings because only living beings have the capability to adapt in their environment. They can get used to the environment, not non-living things. So this is also a defining feature of living organisms. Next feature we have is reproduction. Reproduction is not a defining feature. Now, the reason behind this is not all living organisms reproduce. For example, mule. Mule is the combination of a horse plus donkey, and this was created in the laboratory. So, mule is sterile, means it cannot reproduce, and mule is an example of interspecific hybridization. And another example which we have is of worker bees. They are living organisms, but they don't have the capacity to reproduce because the egg apparatus in them is not developed. Egg apparatus is not developed, so they cannot reproduce. That's why we say that reproduction is not a defining feature of living organisms. Now, let's talk about cellular structure. Cellular structure is different in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Eukaryotes, we have unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. The cells are present only in living organisms, so we can say that a living this is a distinctive feature of only living beings, defining feature. Next, we have metabolism. The definition of metabolism is nothing but the sum total of all biological reactions happening in our body. All these reactions are together known as metabolism. Metabolism can be of two types. First one is anabolism, and second one is catabolism. Anabolism means combining small particles and making a big particle. That is the definition of anabolism, and the examples are photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, small compounds, different, they together combine to form a bigger compound. And the second example is formation of starch from glucose. These are the examples of anabolism, while catabolism is breaking of a large unit into small components. Separation. Anabolism is combination and catabolism is separation. Breaking of one big molecule into smaller ones. And the example here is respiration. So these are the two types of metabolisms. In metabolism, ATP is generated and metabolism can also happen outside the body. These are said to be non living and they are just reactions. For example, in vitro means inside a test tube. So, therefore, metabolism is not a defining feature of living organisms because it could also be achieved in a test tube. Next feature is consciousness. Consciousness is nothing but awareness of the surroundings. And this is a defining feature of living organisms. For example, Mimosa pudica. This is a plant which closes itself when a stimulus comes near it. So, this was the first topic in the chapter Living World. We will revise it fast. We have first discussed all the features which could be seen while defining a living organism and a non living organism. The first one was growth. in which there is a difference between living and non-living. In non-living, it is just accumulation of matter. For example, mountains grow as matter accumulates on it. And in case of living organism, it growth means increase in the cell. If there is increase in the number of cells, then we say that growth happened in a living organisms. There is a difference between plant and animal growth. In plants, the growth is indefinite, means plants grow all through their lifetime due to the presence of apical meristem on their apices. And animals, the growth is known to be definite growth because they stop at a certain age, they do not grow further. So, growth is not a defining feature because both living organisms and non living organisms grow. Development, this happens only in living beings. Living beings develop. Responsiveness, it is also only in living beings. It is a defining feature of living beings because only living beings respond to their environment and react to it. Next, we have adaptation. This can also be seen only in living beings. Living beings adapt to the changes in their environment. Reproduction is not a defining feature because not all living organisms can reproduce. For example, we have seen two examples here. First is of mule. Mule is actually a lab prepared animal. It is a sterile animal. It is prepared by interspecific hybridization of horse plus donkey. Horse and donkey have different number of chromosomes, so therefore mule is sterile. It cannot reproduce. Second example is worker bees. Worker bees can also, they cannot reproduce because their egg apparatus is not developed. So not all living organisms can reproduce, therefore we say that they are non defining feature of living organisms. Next, we have seen cellular structure. Cellular structure is different in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. In prokaryotes, we do not have all the cell organelles, and the cell structure is very simple, while in eukaryotes they can be one celled organisms or multicellular organisms. And we can also say that cellular structure is obviously only a defining feature of living beings. Only living beings have cells. Coming to metabolism, metabolism is nothing but the sum total of all the biological reactions happening in our body. It can be of two types, anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism means small molecules joined together, combined together to form a bigger molecule. For example, in photosynthesis and in the formation of starch from glucose. Catabolism means breakage of one big molecule into smaller molecules. This can be seen in respiration. Metabolism generates ATP, and this can also happen outside the body, like in vitro in a test tube. In when it happens in a test tube, it is said non-living, they are just reactions. Coming to consciousness. Consciousness means awareness of the surroundings, and consciousness is the defining feature of all the living beings. For example, we have discussed Mimosa pudica. It closes its leaves and flowers when stimulus, if you touch it, or some any other stimulus. So this was the first topic, the initial topics of chapter 1, living world. We will discuss all another topics in this form of mind maps also, as well as from the NCRT textbook. Don't forget to share this video, like and subscribe to this channel. If you have any doubt, you can feel free to comment down below. Thanks for watching.